The rate at which new immigrants in Canada are drowning in depression has become alarming and worrisome. And the reason for the rising rate of this depression is that new immigrants, they are beginning to realize that what they expected to find here in Canada is completely different from the reality that they find themselves dealing with. Well, you might be wondering, what is this girl talking about? Let me break this down. There is a new reality here in Canada that sadly a lot of new immigrants are not even aware of. And this reality is that the Canadian economy has acquired a tough texture and is now biting down really hard. And this is because there are no longer as many jobs as we used to have in the past. This is the truth, and anyone who tells you otherwise is simply serving you a sugar-coated version of the reality that we currently have on ground in Canada. Those that know me, they know me very well. They might be shocked, confused, or at worst disappointed by this post that I'm making today. Given that I've always been a strong advocate of the Japa syndrome, I always talk about Japa every time. However, I'm a realist and I owe myself and those who read my posts the responsibility to be truthful at all times. I will not sugarcoat this or sit here and pretend that the grass is green in Canada as it used to be when I arrived in this country almost 10 years ago. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, things have changed. I know many people, men and women, who resumed here as international students in September, and 90% of them are still finding it difficult to find a job. Even the factory jobs that used to be the saving grace and last option for many people are no longer available to students and people who are immigrants without documents. This is the sad truth. Just last week, a lady was on the phone with me and she was crying profusely. In case you are wondering why she was crying, well, it was not because she has not earned a single dollar since she arrived here in Canada, September 2020. It was because she has not earned a single dollar since she arrived here in September 2023. She told me that when desperation began to set in, she began to apply for jobs in some of the worst places that you can even imagine. But still yet, she was rejected. The cost of her rent alone is 1,000 Canadian dollars. But back when I arrived here, that same rent at that time was about $400. I remember that I got my first hustling job as an international student a week after I came in. And this was when I had not even resumed in school. I looked for the job, and when I started this school, I started the job. Right now, the inflation that we are dealing with is just as bad as we have in Nigeria, if not worse. And the issue boils down to the fact that the economy is seriously struggling. In fact, it is so bad that 3 of my friends recently lost their homes here in Canada due to a spike in the interest rates. Let us not forget that Canada has not fully recovered from the effect of COVID-19 on its economy and is still dealing with this. Today in Canada, like never before in history, a growing population of Canadians, they find themselves relying on the food banks to feed themselves and their loved ones. I'm talking about Canadians, so not immigrants. Canadian citizens are finding it hard to feed. I believe Canada and UK have now become overrated. I have left out the United States because I have not heard of immigrants going there complaining as much as people in Canada and UK. Meanwhile, one country that I would advise those looking to migrate to start exploring is Australia. I know why I'm saying this. I know it's difficult to advise you to abort your Japa plans, especially if you've already initiated the process. But if you have to do it, please do it legally and be smart about it. If you don't have what it takes to nail your IELTS and come directly as a permanent resident, as a PR, please, I'm begging, consider coming as an international student, but make sure that you already have enough money to cover your tuition and cost of living for the period of your study. Those that have ears should listen. Don't get carried away by any devilish agent lying to you that you can come to Canada using a visitor's visa and then convert it to a work visa. This is a lie. And it is not as easy as they are telling you. Another lie that agents might tell you is that you can come as a visitor and then you seek asylum. Please, remember that Nigeria is not at war. And currently, we don't have a widespread problem of people facing persecution. So be careful so you don't end up biting your fingers in regret. Just last month, it was reported in the news that somebody from Nigeria came to Canada using a visitor's visa. He went to seek asylum and ended up dying outside on the streets of Brampton. This happened recently in November. I learned that they were kept outside under a tent in the cold on an open field. That gentleman died in a place they were kept that was not even befitting for even animals. My people, please be careful. Securing a visitor's visa and thinking you can use that to japa is not a great decision. No, it is misinformed, illegal, and it will only